Welcome to the FNO InsurTech podcast, a place where movers and shakers from all points within the insurance ecosystem gather and discuss all things InsurTech. We talk about how technology and innovation are affecting and driving change in the industry. Here are your hosts, Lee Boyd and Rob Beller.
Hey, podcast world, welcome to another exciting, thrilling, informative, and even surprising episode of FNO InsurTech. I am not Lee Boyd.
No.
You're Lee Boyd. I'm Rob
I
Beller.
am. And I'm Lee. Hi, everybody.
And I'm back from my journeys.
Man, you took a good journey.
I took a big old journey.
A big old journey throughout the world.
Big old journey. Big old journey around the world. Not around the world. But
give us a highlight. Give us a 30-second highlight. What did you do?
I was in Israel. My son's company bought a company there, so I went with him he had to take care of that, and I had nothing to do but goof off. And Israel was really cool. Really liked it.
Yeah.
A little too hot.
Yeah.
And then we spent a bunch of time in France as well, which was wonderful.
Whenever you were in Israel, I mean, you actually did a little bit of work there, right? You even checked out one of our insured tech friends there, right?
Yeah. I saw Voom. Went to the center of technology, the technology business in Tel Aviv, which is this booming metropolis.
Yeah.
And on the 20th floor of some tall building was Voom, and they had me in, and they gave me food and gave me coffee. And
how great!
Yeah.
How great! You sent me a picture from the windows overlooking Tel Aviv, I believe it was.
Uh-huh.
It's just robust, booming city.
Cool. And really cool.
And we have found out through 230 podcasts, it is a insurtech hub. There's a lot of insurtechs there.
It's an insurtech hub. You know what else it's a hub for?
No.
In case you're wondering. Scooters.
Big scooter city?
I mean, the biggest scooter city I've ever been in.
Like scooters like Limes or scooters like
Scooters
Vespas?
like Limes and Bird and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah. Electric scooters. Thousands of them, and thousands of people riding them all at once. Like you would go to a traffic signal and stop, and as you're waiting, for the signal to change, there'd be like 7 scooters lined up, waiting for it to change.
Waiting to go. They're not like here where they're all piled in a corner because nobody's riding them.
No, because they're gross. No,
yeah. I haven't been on a scooter in a long time.
There they are integral. Yeah, we know we have a scooter story which we won't share today.
We won't. But Rob, we missed you, man. We missed you. We are glad you're back, and we're glad
to be back.
We're glad that you're back to the world of InsurTech and podcast.
It's great to be back. You know what I'm doing right now?
Well, yes,
I'm tapping out words on my phone, on my touch screen on my phone, using both of my thumbs.
Yeah.
Is this how you type? With 2 thumbs?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Sometimes with a finger.
You know how I first learned how to do that?
I don't.
Was on a Blackberry. And it was super cool. And Blackberry was an amazing, innovative company that rose and fell all pretty quickly. And there was a guy that worked there named Paul Donald. And Paul Donald rode the wave at Research in Motion that made Blackberry and came out of that and started a company, co-founded a company named Encircle.
Who we just so happen to have on the podcast today.
Coincidence.
Isn't that a coincidence? And
yes.
Paul's going to come, maybe talk a little bit about Blackberry, but he's going to talk a lot about Encircle, how it got started, and the really fascinating things that this company is doing. It's a tool, it's a platform, a technology that assists field inspections, field adjusters, contractors to give better, accurate information back to the desk, back to the client. And he's going to talk all about it and how AI is used in it. It's a really, really neat product.
Our colleague, John Mico, introduced us to Paul, and they're doing a lot of great things. And I've been in some meetings lately where carriers are very excited about their product and using it. And so we thought, darn it, we got to get them on. And the research in motion part was a little bonus. And so as we head into ITC, let's talk to God's honest insurtech that has made some waves and been around since before insurtech was even a thing. So without further ado, let's get to our interview with Paul Donald, co-founder and CEO at Encircle. Hey, everybody. We are here with our guest of the week coming to us from the north. Right, Paul? Where are you here from?
Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
There you go.
Fantastic international podcast.
We here at FNO Insurtech scour the world.
We do.
We scour the world. And today our stop is in Ontario, Canada. And we have Paul Donald with us. Paul is co-founder and CEO of Encircle. Welcome to FNO Insurtech.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much, Bob and Leah. I appreciate you having me on.
It's great to have you here. Let's do a quick shout out. Tell us how it is that you ended up on our podcast.
We've been working with John Michael and the team at Alacrity for probably a year and a half. We've been servicing the restoration and the property claims industry, which includes adjusters, for 11 years. And so John Michael and I, we've crossed our paths over the years, and a year and a half ago decided let's see what we can do together to fix some of the inefficiencies in the industry. And not just us, but how do we bring some of the best technology companies together to create a holistic solution was really the vision. And John had it. John really showed a true interest in the industry and how do we drive efficiency and really serve our customers. So your customers, whether it's the carrier or the policyholder. So yeah, and it was a great opportunity to work together.
Well, thank you for saying such nice things about him, because now I'll be able to collect $20 from him.
Hey, big shout out to John stepping into a new role this month.
Yeah, John Michael, he's our chief strategy and innovation officer, has also taken on the presidency of our MRP.
Yes.
Congratulations, John.
Yeah.
Congratulations, John.
Big deal. So let's start where we like to start by first kind of being clear about what we're talking about here. And we're talking about Encircle. So why don't you start with giving us an introduction to that for many, many, many of the people on the podcast who don't know what Encircle is. Tell us what it is and what you do there.
Sure. Encircle is a software platform, both mobile and web, that is focused on field documentation. So you think about photos, videos, notes, documenting contents, floor plans, writing scopes, getting authorization forms signed, generating 24-hour reports. This is all built into one platform. And the whole concept behind it, and we started off with the policyholder to say, hey, can a policyholder create a home inventory that reads like a children's storybook? This is a person who's not getting paid to do it. Can we make it easy enough that anybody who wants to, they follow through on it? So that was the initial assessment. And if a policyholder would do it, well, then we knew it'd be easy enough for an adjuster or a restoration contractor who's getting paid to do it to use the platform. And coming out of Blackberry, I knew if we go back to 2012, we knew where the camera was going and how the camera would be utilized in these smartphones to create a much better documentation process. So we're focused on field documentation.
Yeah. So where did this idea come from? I mean, why field documentation?
It's been a decades-long challenge leading up to, I wrote the business plan in 2009, but at Blackberry, we had lots of interactions with the insurance industry. And a close friend of mine wrote policy management and claim software for the insurance industry. You can probably guess what his biggest challenge was getting accurate data into the system, because a lot of it was transcribed field notes that were on paper. And he kept saying, hey, with your background in mobile, can you help us fix this problem?
Wow.
I have to digress for a second and ask you about the camera, because, you bring up a great point, and that is what the camera has enabled mobile devices to become. I think is something that, I don't know, like myself as a non-technical person, I don't fully appreciate it. Tell us the story about how somebody said, you know what, we should stick a camera in this thing. You came from Research in Motion and were involved with Blackberry, of course, the grandfather of all smartphones. Tell us a little bit about the camera and the phone and how that got together.
Well, interesting enough, at Blackberry, we were against the camera because we were all about security. And a lot of our big customers were corporate organizations like insurance companies, government agencies, legal entities. They really didn't care about the camera until consumers started leveraging our phones. And as soon as BlackBerry got into the consumer segment, there was huge demand for a camera. And that was the dichotomy that we struggled with, because our corporate clients said, if you put a camera in that device, we won't use it. So this is 2006, 2005, 2006. Then, of course, you had Apple come out with the first device with a camera, and that changed the game.
Sure.
But we knew where the chipsets around camera and visualization was going, and it was an exciting frontier. We just had to get over the security risks of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at 2006, 2007, that it's been building since that technology.
So what are the products that Encircle offers to the marketplace? And just to be clear, your primary market has to do with restoration.
No, we also have adjusters. So it's anybody who's documenting a loss in the field, and where that documentation the facts have to be upheld throughout the process. Meaning, if an adjuster or restoration contractor documents a job, does it stay intact from an integrity standpoint? Date stamps, geolocates, who captured the information, and does it tell a complete story in the end? I kind of align it to, if you were to hand in your taxes to an accountant, do you have real receipts, or do you just have numbers written on a hand sketch and handing it in? And which one does your accountant want? Well, in property claims, you need real data that stands up to the scrutiny of an audit, and which could be a court of law. And so that's what we provide, is utilizing, and we're all about utilizing the phone, because field workers, whether adjusters or restorers, are typically tactile oriented. They navigate their world through physical constructs. So filling out a form or filling out a spreadsheet in the field is a foreign concept. Just, it feels wrong.
Yeah.
But when you document it visually, that's a tactile oriented process.
And I think that's been a change. I mean, back in the day, we all used paper out there, but that was before anybody had their smartphone. And so now we all have the smartphone. So now we live on the smartphone. So why do we need to keep on using paper documents and paper forms?
That's a good question, because we did a survey, and 70% of adjusters and restorers still use paper in the field.
Do they really?
Yes.
Do they really?
It is the hardest thing, because it just works. And of course, you look at the aging population in this industry, and I still have paper notes, but
I'm writing my paper notes right now. Look, all of us are right now.
Yeah, but we have to get past that, because when it's in a digital format, there's a whole bunch of things that we can do to drive efficiency that I'm sure we can elaborate on.
Talk about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'd like to hear about that.
Sure. Well, now with the camera, when you're taking photos or capturing video, you've got timestamps, you've got geolocates, you've got AI in the phone and the camera to help, get really good pictures and segment out certain elements of the photo. Like, it could be furniture, it could be damage. So where it's going is to automate the extraction of data and compartmentalize it so other systems can use it. And we're big believers in video, because you're probably aware that you can have multiple adjusters going out to a site, or multiple restorers, and separate them and have them come up with estimates. None of them are going to be exact. They're all going to be slightly different by the way they attach it, whether they're drying in place or whether they're ripping out, doing a 2-foot flood cut. They're all going to assess it slightly differently. So video allows that adjuster or restorer to actually describe what they're doing and inform everybody who's reviewing the file as to why it was done the way it was done. Because most of the time, there's a logical reason behind it, but you can't get that from photos and just cryptic notes. So can we do video with the notes, and then you apply AI on top of that, and you get some really good results.
And so you actually are using the video, and is somebody talking? Is somebody talking during the video? And so if I need to review that file, I need to watch and listen to the video. Is that how that works?
That's right. And they're typically short videos, less than 2 minutes, we say. And if it's a large loss, you might have multiple videos that are all titled properly. So you can go right to that segment. But what that allows us to do is, you've heard of ChatGPT.
I have.
using a form of GPT AI to extract those notes and automatically build a scope off of it. And you can do it highly accurately because of you've got the context in the video, both verbally and visually, and then you've also got the photos. See, AI in and of itself can't fix errors, but when you have enough context for it to feed off of, you can start to drive high accuracy.
That's what you're doing. You're using the video and the notes in conjunction to get a better outcome from the AI.
That's absolutely where we're going.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, we just released our floor plan tool, which will automatically generate a floor plan off of basically using video to walk the perimeter of the floors in and out of each room. Average house takes about 4 minutes to scan.
Okay.
And probably within about 45 minutes, you got a full floor plan back. So yeah, we're big believers in video.
One of the big announcements that you guys have made recently is of your work with Verisk, working directly with Verisk. I assume it's through the Exact product. Can you share with us that we're probably in that neighborhood of talking about that kind of thing right now, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So the floor plan tool I was mentioning to you, where you can do residential or commercial spaces, we output to a full floor plan with dimensioning details. We now can automatically generate an Xactimate sketch from it. So saving on average 45 minutes to an hour on each job. So the idea being, can we speed it up? And then can we remove any biases as well? So it's all computer generated.
What do you mean, a bias, for example?
There might be a human error, might be a bias, where a measurement was entered wrong, or where there might be a reason to enlarge that make the space larger than it might seem.
I see.
So this takes that away.
So I was in a meeting not even a month ago, maybe or so, with one of the largest insurers in the country who are using your product, or maybe either testing or using they have it in their hands. And they also have several other products that that provide similar types of outputs through their own unique approaches. But they couldn't stop talking about yours. You'll be glad to know. In the positive,
I'd love to hear that.
In the positive. Why? Because it's easy.
Easy wins.
Because it's
all day
easy. Long. What this particular carrier, and I think many carriers would like, is, can I put something in the hand of my insured and get real, good, clean data back that I could adjust a claim with? Can I get that? And the answer that was being provided to me was yes.
Yeah, we're big believers in simple wins. This is a complex industry. Both of you have probably been on claims, hundreds of claims probably.
Quite a few.
And no two are the same. And then you add in the complexity of a policyholder that may be unglued, other challenges in the environment, smell, temperature, you name it, and see if you can focus on entering data on a small screen or even a big screen. It becomes very difficult. So the way we look at everything is, in the worst circumstances, can I still fully fulfill the job of documenting that I need to? And it's got to be fast and it's got to be mindless. So the way we designed the floor plan tool was, I could be talking to the policyholder and they could be screaming in my ear and I could still complete the full scan without really having to focus on it. And then the way we divide up doing, our photos, our videos, even our moisture mapping is the easiest in the industry. And we will use that floor plan to actually generate a calculation for how much equipment you need. But we're not doing any magic here. This is an industry that's a first responder. They just need the fundamentals to just work every single time and for it to be fast. So if you look how we've implemented the workflows, it works along the way that adjusters and restorers will assess a building and works within that flow instead of causing an unnatural act.
Where does it work the best? Does it work the best in the hands of an adjuster contractor or in the hands of an insured?
So it works well in the hands of the insured when they're guided as to what to do. But typically we want an adjuster on a small loss. Yes, a policyholder could do it, no problem.
Okay.
But anything larger where you're going to need a restoration contractor or an adjuster out there anyways, put them out in the field to document so that they can describe the loss So cause of loss, resulting damages, and the work that needs to be done. Those are things that a policyholder can't do and are really critical if it goes into arbitration or there's a problem with the file.
I see.
I've always known you guys as relative to the restoration field. Talk about your involvement there and why that's your reputation.
That was probably the hardest problem to solve, is to get restoration contractors to document consistently. It really was everything from scribbled notes to digital workflows. And this was an industry that was jaded because they had been promised magic technology for years, and nothing really worked at the field level. I actually spent 4 months in the field. There was some contractors that graciously allowed me to follow them on jobs and be a helper. I did burned out buildings. I did the nastiest of fires, floods. They put me in the worst conditions to test our theories out, and we learned a lot from it. And it literally takes that to be able to understand the job that these individuals do, and then put it on a catastrophic situation where you have high capacity events and it's 10 times worse because you're tired.
Right.
And you've got this big, huge backlog. Well, how can I make it so easy that we call it dance steps? It's so easy to do that it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it alleviates me having to actually think about, how do I get this data into the system? I can now just focus on, okay, what data do I need to capture, because the flow inside of Encircle is so easy.
That's great. Something I was thinking about earlier is there's a lot of technology now. There's a lot of systems. And I'm thinking about adjusters and contractors, and we're asking them to use a lot of tools or this, maybe use this in the field, but then when you get back to the desk, you've got to use something else. How does Encircle help eliminate or streamline some of these technologies? Is it through integrations like the Bear Risk one you talked about?
Absolutely. In fact, we've been big proponents, and that's why we were talking with John Michael, is that this industry is so complex that there's no one size fits all. And so all of us who are primary technology providers to this industry need to have open APIs where we can integrate with one another, doing it securely. But we don't own your data. You're the customer. You own your data. You should be able to say how and what systems it moves through. And we just facilitate that. This old guarded system where I wouldn't allow your data to move to where you need it to be, so you had to do double and triple entry, is an old way of thinking. And I'm happy to say that in the past 2 years, those barriers have started to come down. We have a long way to go, but our integration with Xactware is a clear example of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting to watch Exact change. I mean, there's no better word for it. I mean, they were a closed system for a long time, and I know that they're working very diligently. Mike is gone, but it continues under Aaron that they're working very diligently to be an open platform to serve. I know that you've spent a lot of time thinking about how fragmented the property claims industry is, particularly from a technology standpoint. Can you talk about that for a few minutes? And you said that in the last couple of years it's changing, but are we there? What's the problem? What's the solution?
So the big thing is, number one, we've got to help those in the field capture complete data sets. And that includes all your auth forms, your photos, the details of why you're doing what you're doing, how did you assess it this way? And then that data has to move seamlessly into the other systems, just like AlacNet, the Xactimate and Exact Analysis, CoreLogic's platform. The more you have double and triple entry, the more you have data errors. And the more that double and triple entry, you lose your timestamps, your geolocates, all of the backup verifiable data that you're going to need when you start to apply generative AI to it. Generative AI doesn't just pull things out of thin air. It needs highly contextualized data, and then it can do something with it. Like the videos that we send to our AI engine to create the floor plan is very consistently generated every time. If it's not, you start to get something called drift, which means it starts to drift away from the original plan of the algorithms, and you start to get bad results.
Without asking too complex of a question, why does that happen?
Well, because number one, if you have control of the data right from the source and you can verify it and it's done in a consistent way, your algorithms can process it pretty consistently. But as soon as the algorithm gives you an output that's wrong and nobody catches it, well, that becomes part of the model. And then it happens over and over and over and over again. So I'll give you a great example of that. A restorer out in the field forgot to document something on the job. He's 2 weeks later. The managed repair network says, hey, you need this piece of documentation. He's got no other ability but to make it up.
Yeah.
Now that piece of data is made up, goes through the process and creates a false positive that now starts to affect the algorithm. And that's a big challenge. And your systems break down very, very quickly.
And so to make this happen, you have to hire some pretty smart people, I'm guessing. I mean, and what does your staff look like? How many folks work at Encircle, and what kind of smart people are you employing there?
Great question. We're right around 100 people.
Oh, wow.
And probably 40% of the company is on the software engineering side.
Okay. Any data scientists? I mean, is that something you're hiring for?
We work with partners. So with data scientists, it oftentimes is better to work with a third party because you can get faster turnaround times. Being able to hire and have these people on staff and have them work with the community of other data scientists because they feed off of each other can be quite challenging. So we work with third parties. In Canada, believe it or not, is one of the leading AI countries producing AI in the world.
That's great.
Yes, the University of Toronto and Montreal are big universities for AI.
I always find it's hard to come up with the questions that I want to ask, right? So I have all this data. I think it's clean data. I put it in there correctly the way it should be, but I always have a hard time to say, what do I need to ask that moves me one step closer to a better cycle time or a more accurate estimate or a better floor plan? And I assume you have people who have to sit around and think of those questions.
Oh, yeah. In fact, what you've got to look at is what is the data that is being collected by the field workers. And so you need to understand what your data assets are. And you've heard the concept that data is gold. It really is. If you've got highly accurate data with all of the backup integrity points, then you can start doing these really creative things with it that save time. So if you think about creating a video with the description of the cause of loss, the resulting damages, and the work that needs to be done, and you start applying some AI to photos with the video, and then using large language models to extract the details out of the voiceover, you can start putting the whole scope picture together. So can you create 100% scope right out of the gate? No, that's still years away. Yeah. But you can get there about 80%, and then all you have to do is edit it. And you can track all of that throughout the process because you've got timestamps, geolocates, you know who captured the data, who edited the data. And now moving that into Exact and tools like Exact Expert, we can really streamline, not only streamline the process, but you can start building a factor on data integrity. You can start giving scores on data integrity, which, by the way, is important. Can I trust this data?
Right.
Can I save time?
What's the likelihood that the report and the recommendations and whatnot that you're reading are accurate? Right.
You got it. And so we heard a study that adjusters, on average, if you've got all of the data on an average $14,000 loss, should take you about an hour to adjust it. Okay. But right now, adjusters are spending on average 10 to 11 hours. And most of that in back and forth conversations with either the policyholder or the restorer because of lack of information that they can trust. So they have to try and build this story to be able to come up with a settlement.
So is your vision to use AI to help kind of compress the whole process down into a quicker, shorter life cycle?
It's number one, to tell a clear, trustworthy story, to put all constituents on the same page, number one. And then number two is to speed it up. But we're not going to get to speed until we've got the accuracy where everybody trusts that these are the facts that we're all working with.
Great point. What good is it to go fast if you have people involved, parties involved who don't agree to begin with? So that's number one, is the restoration contractor, the adjuster, the insured, all on the same page.
That's right.
So having a report that has high integrity, that everybody agrees this is the solution to this insurance problem.
That's exactly it. And how many times we have restorers and adjusters and even reviewers at Alacrity. You guys are a great organization, but there's always these frictions between, the reviewer saying, hey, you're missing this piece of data. I can't push this through to the adjuster until you give me this. We've just got to stop that back and forth whack-a-mole game. And let's just make sure we've got all of the details captured from first notice of loss all the way through to claim closed, and that everybody can see it and not only see the data, but trust the data.
I'm sitting here thinking this is a great tool for catastrophes. Whenever you have to increase the adjuster workforce or the contractor workforce, whenever you need more people to come into a storm site, or people who have been focusing on wind hail, and now we need to switch to ice and ice dams and water backups or something like that. It's a tool that kind of can level the playing field, that allows an adjuster or a contractor to come in and do a great job, because they're kind of following a script, right? They're doing what the application tells them to do. Is that one of the selling points?
That's exactly it. In fact, our customer base grows substantially right after a high capacity event, because they start seeing what contractors who have been using and adjusters who are using Encircle can do versus those that don't. And like, so many pain points are reduced when you've got a complete file. When you've got all of the information, it's a whole different discussion throughout the claim cycle. So
or you don't have to find the guy who did the estimate to ask him a question.
That's right.
That's it. It's all there in front of you. And restorers, here's the nice thing, the way we built it, because it sort of guides you through the documentation process. You think about a high capacity event, oftentimes you have to throw some lesser skilled individuals to do typical jobs that are need higher qualified people.
Right.
But through the documentation process, you can do remote coaching with them to help them through it.
See, I mean, that's a great thing too, right? You use it as an education platform also.
Absolutely. That's a big
that.
part of how contractors and adjusters use that.
So whenever I hear the word video, I think about large amounts of data versus photos. Photos are typically smaller, but videos can grow very large, very fast. Who's storing these videos, and where are they stored? I mean, it's a lot of, they're very big files, I would assume. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, we use compression to bring those file sizes down, but typically, like I said, we try and keep them below 2 minutes. So you're going to be documenting the job using photos, videos, notes, but the video is just a summary of cause of loss resulting damages. It's not going to be hours or tens of minutes. Usually you're looking at 2 minutes, and on a large loss, you're maybe on the initial inspection, 15 minutes of segmented, 7 or 8 videos. So that's not really too bad over 5G networks. And all of this data is stored in Microsoft Azure cloud. Okay. And yes, we have terabytes and terabytes of data. I think we average 1 million photos a week, or some ridiculous amount of how many photos.
That's a large amount. And so just by using that knowledge right there, I mean, you're out there doing this for people all day, every day. Is that right? This is a live product that you're actively out there using.
We are the leading platform in Canada, US, UK, and Australia for field documentation.
There you go. I didn't know about the Australia. I missed that in my readings.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful.
You brought something up earlier that I want to hit on, because I think it's an important point for anybody who's involved in property claims or claims that you have to see, right? Because there's many different kinds of insurance claims. Some pictures are of no use, but in property, that's what we're talking about here. It's a big deal. And that you went out for several months and went to losses. I too, I'm a sales and marketer person. I haven't been an adjuster. I haven't done field work. And I took a week several years ago and did trips with adjusters to locations and saw losses. Boy, was that valuable. Is that what you found?
When you put yourselves in their shoes, you understand that So when you're building software for an individual, too often you think all they're thinking about at that point is working with your piece of software. But when you're on a job site, it is chaotic. And you think smell doesn't matter. You go to a protein fire, and I'm going to tell you, I don't care how much Vicks you put under your nose, it's not going to
Absolutely.
be a pleasant experience.
Absolutely.
And so all these things impact your ability to focus and concentrate. And so the idea was, can we visually capture this information through photos? Can we capture a video that describes what I'm seeing and feeling so that whoever's reviewing it later can have a sense of what I've gone through? And think about this. It's easy to play armchair quarterback, right? Well, why did you make the decision you just made? I wouldn't have made that decision. But when you actually get to experience what it was like, if you put yourself there with the smells, the experience, in Canada, the cold weather, it's damp, you'll understand that you were under the gun. You had to make a decision. You didn't have the ability to sit there and analyze photos and look at all of the losses in that neighborhood as compared to this one. You're focused on one particular loss that I've got to get the details on, get in and out of this, and on to the next job. That's a different world. Until you experience it, you can't build software for those individuals.
I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking this is, well, I'll take a step back. Sometimes you watch online, Apple's coming out with this new headset, VR headset, and you're thinking, what's a use case for that? When would I really use that? And this is a prime example of being able to put a VR headset on, but you don't have to, right? You see it right on the screen, but to walk through and visually see what the adjuster or the contractor is seeing. You're right about the protein fires. You can't explain in a photo the smell or the grime or the grit. I did fires for several years, and sometimes in a photo you're thinking, oh, well, there's no fire damage, but you have to be able to explain that the fire department ripped open the roof and there's water everywhere. You just can't see it, but you have to be able to see. And I thought, what a great use of VR is in reviewing files. So that would be fascinating. You've got to have that on the roadmap. I'm sure that's a extra cost there, but that would be pretty cool.
So we're not going to use VR, but we're going to do something similar to it where we're going to allow you to experience it. And so you've got the voiceover of the adjuster or the restorer. So you've got some context that you can relate to as you're looking at the details in the job.
And narration.
Exactly. And so now you want to get them on the same page. Do the facts stand up? Can we ensure that this was captured on this site by qualified individuals? And if everything is yes, then why aren't we on the same page? And you're dealing with a much more narrower set of variables than if all I've got is photos and I'm going to make assumption based on the 30 jobs I've looked at.
Right.
And where this one should land versus the unique attributes of this particular job.
That's so great. I think it's a really, really fascinating model.
I want to talk about competition for a minute. We talked about the camera. There's many, many companies who are working in different ways, shapes, and forms within the area that you are. How are you standing out? I'll get back to that meeting that I sat in with a major carrier. Their attitude was easiness, right? It was something that the one gentleman that was in the meeting said, he could hand his phone to his wife and say, here, do this. And she did it, right? And that was his kind of litmus test. What are you doing competitively to stand out?
Well, I think ease of use is the biggest thing, but we also integrate with Matterport. So Matterport does floor plans and 3D walkthroughs. And so whatever our clients' needs are, because sometimes you're on a very large commercial loss where you want those 3D walkthroughs. We focused on 80%, a segment that we think is 80%, that they just want to get in, get the floor plan done as quickly as possible, as accurately as possible, and build out this file. Versus there are unique value propositions for Matterport, and Ricoh Camera DocuSketch uses that. So we're open to working with all of those partners because we don't believe that we'll service everybody's needs. Again, like I say, there's no one size fits all, but ours is simplest, easy to use on floor plans that are up to 15,000, maybe 20,000 square feet, and where you don't need a 3D walkthrough at this point.
Is the interest that you're getting in the marketplace today more from the carrier side or from the restorer side? Or can you
We've got a
tell us?
we've got a lot of excitement from the restorer side just because of one of their biggest challenges is getting the floor plan and dimensions to get the estimate uploaded. And so they're taking 7 days previously to do it versus now all of that data is captured and within minutes their estimator has the details and instantly they're writing the estimate in Xactimate. Helps the adjuster get to a reserve a lot faster. But adjusters equally are finding, we had a bunch of adjusters from an insurance carrier using our floor plan tool out on the East Coast with the hurricane. And they were just blown away how fast they were getting these floor plans done and able to reach a settlement.
So I have to ask you before we go about research in motion. We were talking offline before we started today about the movie that came out, and you found it less than accurate.
Not a stitch of truth in it.
Not a stitch of truth.
But what's the movie aside, the research in motion story is a fascinating one and probably helps you in running your company, I would think. The experiences, the successes, but also probably even more importantly, the missed opportunities and the failures. Is that the case?
Absolutely. It was the greatest learning experience of my career, hands down. It was great. Initially, think about the early days, we had to go out and build the market. You realize that the wireless operators didn't really have an interest in Blackberry until we went out directly to the market, and on Wall Street, it became known as Crackberry. All the Wall Street traders were heads down typing on their Blackberry. And who did the wireless operators care about? They cared about the big investment banks. So we built this market that then they wanted to come in on, and eventually we sold through the wireless operators. But it was 2 years of just an incredible time building that market and pushing mobile technology, mobile computing to an all new level. And when it took off, you were just holding the tail of the tiger while it just ran.
And it ran fast.
It ran fast. Fastest growing company in the world.
Yeah. What did you say the dollars were from what to what in like 10 years?
1998 was about 10 million in revenue, and 2009, 2010 it was about 20 billion.
Wow. Incredible.
What a story. What a story.
Yeah.
My last question for you is, all that's fascinating, and you shared with us some of the things that you did at the company. How do you get from there to here? I mean,
I ask myself that every day. No, I love solving tough problems. And when I looked at this was a very tough problem because this is an industry that's just resistant to change, but so badly needed change and so badly needed to use the benefits of mobile technology and where the camera was going and AI. And it just had so much applicability to an industry that serves our needs during catastrophic events and just normal bad things that happen. We've got to be able to recover in our local communities so that we can keep our economy running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what conferences will we see you at over
That's
the
what I
next
was about to ask.
6 months?
ITC?
We'll see you at ITC. Absolutely.
Okay. We'll be there.
Okay.
So and then we'll be at the restoration shows, so CoreLogic and Verisk as well.
Good.
In the new year. If you guys are up for some skiing in Utah, join us for a few days on the slopes.
No, that would be fun.
Where anytime somebody wants to throw us something for free, that's pretty much where we're in.
The invite is there. If you're going to be at the Verisk conference a couple days before, if you're going in early, let's do a day or two of skiing.
Let's do it.
What about ITC? You're having a party at ITC?
We're not having a party. We don't have a booth. We're just showing up for meetings down there at ITC.
Yeah. It's a great meeting conference.
Oh,
how's the conference shaping up for you guys this year?
ITC in particular?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got lots of really solid meetings lined up for that. Working with what we've achieved with Verisk has caught the eye of the industry. And this is an industry where you don't want to bring something too early to the table because it just falls flat and you can burn through a lot of resources. we're now ready to have those discussions. And with our recent launch with Verisk, those discussions are happening both at ITC and as well the Verisk conference.
Yeah, that's very insightful. We've seen it time and again. Good ideas just don't have a home often in our industry. And it's not for lack of inspiration of people being able to take the idea into their org is complicated.
Yeah, and the technology, when they do, just has to work. If it doesn't, it's so tough to change your processes within an insurance company or even a restoration contractor, because there's so many interdependencies. And it's like giving an ambulance, new technology. Here, go test this out. Well, they don't know what kind of emergencies they're going to be responding to.
Right.
Does this thing work? Does it not work? I can't take a chance. I don't have the affordability of time. I've just got to be able to execute. And so that's the big thing. When you bring technology into this industry, it better just be bulletproof.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, if you're going to ask an insurer to change their workflow, it better work. So
better work.
Right. Well, listen, we're thrilled to finally have you on, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Las Vegas and other places. And very impressive. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for being on,
Thank
Paul.
you very much. And I've got some great Blackberry stories for Vegas over a couple beers.
Can't wait.
I know where we can get a beer in Las Vegas. All right. See you then. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.
So, yeah, before we started today, Paul was telling us about working at Research in Motion, and he was like employs like 35 or something like that, right?
Yes, a very low number.
Very, very low number. So he was there for the high times.
For the wild ride.
For the wild ride. It was a wild ride. But not because of anybody's, there weren't bad guys involved or anything like that. It was just so far ahead of its time. They couldn't keep up.
I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, just every day it was doubling. I would imagine the need, the desire, all the things, like everything just kept growing and growing and growing. Yeah. I bet they couldn't hire people fast enough. I bet the stories he has.
Yeah. And essentially they were it. I mean, today, if you don't want one phone, you can get another, but this was before those times. And you could get a flip phone, and that was really cool.
Oh, I remember the flip phone. See, that's what I had. I never had the Blackberry. I came in kind of after the Blackberry. I had a Motorola Razor, and it was great. It was great. It was blue.
I had a StarTAC, I think.
I don't even know what that is.
It was a Motorola phone.
See, Motorola, they were great. Yeah. I don't know many people with the Motorola right now.
Well, it was great to have Paul with us today, and great to have all of you with us today. And thanks to our engineering team for everything that they do. And we're entering Q4 here at F&O InsurTech, which means an exciting time. Lots of big things. ITC around the corner. Yeah. And we'll be there.
We will be. I'm actually trying to get a hotel room right now because I'm late to the game. And
I have a recommendation for you when we go offline.
Okay, because I already tried that and I still can't get it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay.
So I'll be down the block at the New York.
Cool. All right. Well, listen, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.